Today we're going to go back in time just a little bit and talk a little bit about the different trainers that Dr. Tom has worked with throughout his tenure with the WWE developmental system. So when you were in Stanford, was that just you?
That was me and Dory Funk Jr. actually came in too. We did the Funkin' Dojo there. Um, yeah,
So how was it working with Dory during that time period? Because this was still very early on with what developmental was.
right. No, Dory was cool because Dory's a former world champion. He one of the longest running NWA reigning NWA champions, and he knew his stuff. Um, we had a lot of fun, and it was very informative for me too. I mean, just watching and learning from Dory.
Now, did they have anything in mind when it was just you two, like from the inception to how they wanted this to evolve, and why didn't Dory be a part of that transition?
Well, I think Dory eventually had his deal going on in Ocala, and that kind of threw things made it a little difficult for him to come back and forth. So I think he was doing his deal in Ocala, and then whatever happened in Stanford.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, so I don't know the full details, but I just know he was in Ocala coming back and forth, and maybe they wanted to move there. I don't know, but I was already moved and ready to set up shop. So, but Dory was good to learn from. Dory was good to watch and pay attention to, and he had a lot of neat tricks.
No, when it was you and Dory, was that just that inaugural class that everyone knows about?
Yeah, well, it was me in the beginning with Mark Rock and Occam,
Mhm.
but then Dory Funk came on, I think, a couple weeks after that, and but yeah, that was Dory and myself. Yeah.
Was the next move, was that Les Thatcher with HWA, or was that Memphis?
Well, I think we went to Memphis
Hmm.
first, and that was Terry Golden and those guys. I never made or I did make a couple shots to Memphis, but I don't remember who was training those guys down there. Was Terry Golden training those guys?
Yeah, I know Terry. Yeah, I've talked to him a couple of times.
Okay.
Hmm.
Well, then I might have made one or two shots down there to see Terry, but that was it. I
Was
never
that
really spent a whole lot of time around him.
was that that was still very early on in developmental? And do you know how any of that came to be with Memphis at all?
Yeah, I think it was through Lawler because they had that studio wrestling down there. You could wrestle Monday. Well, you could wrestle all week actually.
Hmm.
And Monday was Memphis, Tuesday Louisville, Wednesday Evansville, and you had Thursday and Friday for spot shows. Then you go back and start all over again at TV on Saturday. And it was just a great way to
Hmm.
keep the guys working and get them some reps.
I Working like that, I feel from outside looking in is a good way to, like you say, get the reps in, get them traveling a little bit, to working in front of different crowds and getting them ready for, how they may perform in front of bigger crowds later on down the road.
Yeah, Memphis was a great training ground. I mean, it gave you enough time on the road where you could appreciate or not appreciate it, find out if you really want to do this or not, because Memphis and Nashville is 200 miles and another 165 miles to Louisville. So most guys try to live in Nashville and get it done, and they did. So, but that's the way to do it. The only way to do this is to wrestle in front of people every single night.
Hmm. From Memphis, was it Les Thatcher with HWA?
It was Jim Cornette with OVW, and then he got less involved with HWA.
Do you remember how
So
all that came to be?
yeah, Cornette wanted to move from Stanford, and he said, well, "How about?" And he had a vested interest with Danny Davis,
Hmm.
and he suggested to Vince, "Why not let the guys come to Louisville, and then they have Cincinnati right across the way there too, and then they could work both places, and get experience."
Were you hands on with Les Thatcher during that time, or was it more OVW?
No, it was OVW and Les Thatcher. I mean, I was over talent relations, over the developmental part. So yeah, I was hands on with Les.
How do you feel the HWA did during its short time period?
They did just great. Again, it was a place to go to train and learn your craft and get experience.
Hmm.
And I thought it was a great system.
For HWA, was it just that you can remember? Was it just Les Thatcher up in Cincinnati training?
It was Les Thatcher, Matt Stryker. Oh, I'm trying to think. Cody, is it Cody Hawk?
I believe so.
Cody Hawk was there, help training. So he had some people helping him.
And then OVW and HWA would just send talent back and forth to do different styles and different work with different people, basically.
Yeah, well, then they did TV in the same building in Louisville. Les would bring his guys in the OVW arena, and he would do his TV in that little shack they used to have before they had that magnificent warehouse. Now, have you ever seen the OVW school when they first started?
Now I've drove past it from the interstate a couple times. It's been fixed up a lot since those days.
Well, it was just a little tin building. I mean,
Hmm.
I think those buildings are gone, but the one they have now is fantastic.
Hmm. And they
Yeah.
keep improving that Davis Arena over years. It just seems like that specific territory, whether it's not affiliated with WWE anymore, it just never died.
No, they did a good job of keeping it alive, and Danny did a good job of keeping it alive till he finally had enough and moved to Florida. So yeah, they did a good job, very good job.
Now, when it comes to Ohio Valley Wrestling, what do you think made it stay around for so long and be such a successful program for developmental?
I think the fact that Danny Davis and Jim Cornette were there was a big, big element to their success. Cornette would make these videotapes when they had videotapes um, of various matches and explain the importance and what they did and how to sell and body language and psychology and all these things. And when anybody came in, he had this entire uh, set of tapes with notes to
Hmm.
study. And Jimmy was a perfectionist. Danny was great at what he did, and Rip Rogers, for whatever anybody thinks of Rip Rogers, I think he's a great coach. I've watched him coach many times, and just very detail oriented. I
Hmm.
think that's what helped him.
I think yourself and Rip Rogers are the two highest regarded trainers for the developmental system.
Well, I didn't know that, but that's good to know.
Hmm.
So because I really do, I think Rip has his fundamentals down, knows his basics, and I know I won't go off on a tangent here, but the business has changed today, but you still have to have the basics and fundamentals to get
Hmm.
by.
And
Yeah.
just because he has colorful language doesn't mean it's anything negative.
No, that's right. I mean, Rip is a challenge sometimes. But when you get down to it, if you're going to learn about wrestling, he's the one to go to.
Hmm. And during OVW there was Rip, and then I know Nick Dinsmore did some classes for a while.
Yep. Doug Basham.
Hmm.
Yeah.
What? So did you oversee that part of it, where some of the students were trainers, or because some of those people weren't signed, or they were signed, but they were teaching like the beginners classes, or was that separate?
No, that was separate. I was doing WWE stuff, and they were doing that.
So how did it? Did you help hire the other trainers that would come down to OVW? Whether that was like Greg Gagne or like Robert Gibson for a while. I know
Well,
there was a handful.
that was a JR call. That was right above my pay grade, that's for sure. But JR would do it, or we suggest somebody, and they would come in and do a guest training.
Now, was that hard? Was that an easy thing to do or a hard thing to do to find what kind of trainer you guys wanted in that position?
I think at that time we were just experimenting to see what everybody knew because wrestling is just an opinion, and you're going to have guys come in with different ideas, different takes, and different ways of doing things. So I think I was just trying to figure out who would be a good fit back at that time.
Was there anybody in particular that you thought were good fits that maybe didn't stick around or didn't want that as a permanent time gig?
I don't know if Dave Taylor didn't want to stick around or have a permanent type gig. But I thought Dave was a great trainer in Deep South. And whenever I saw him train, he always had something to add, something to show.
Mhm.
So I don't know. He's one of those guys that his wife might have had a great job. He
Mhm.
didn't want to do anything, necessarily jeopardize that. So which I understand.
Mhm.
So, but Dave was one of them. And then Brad Armstrong's another one that I just thought he was a great guy to coach and train with.
During the time at OVW, was there any talks of opening Deep South, or were you gone at that time and then came back?
No, I think Deep South and OVW were running at the same time,
Mhm.
and I was gone for a while. And then when I came back, I went to Deep South, and then OVW is still in business. And from what I understood, they wanted it to be a competition, which made no sense to me, but they wanted to be in competition with each other for the TV ratings and all this other stuff. And yeah, it was crazy.
But how could they even view their products unless they were mailing each other the tapes or DVDs? Because it was just local, right?
Well, they were mailing each other the tapes and DVDs. Yeah, they wanted to know what each other was doing.
Uh,
Yeah, it was a little crazy going on at that time.
what do you think the main reasoning behind opening different territories in different parts of the country with different sets of trainers?
You just shut that. What was it? I'm sorry.
What do you think like the biggest idea was from opening different territories in different parts of the country with different sets of trainers? Was it always going to be like you would rotate talent to different places, or was it just different people for different styles?
I believe it's different people for different styles. I mean, just so you wouldn't get set and bored and doing just one single way, and then you go. I do things different than other trainers and coaches and vice versa. So it's just your preference, different flavor of ice cream, and
Hmm.
they wanted you to taste each flavor, I think, and see which one you excel at, and that's what makes it such an overcast of styles.
Hmm. Is it hard coming in after somebody else and trying to man that class?
Sometimes at the same time, I just have to tell them this is the way we're going to do it now. Just learn how to adapt. If somebody comes in and tells you to do it a different way, when we have guest trainers, guest coaches, learn how to adapt.
Hmm.
Do it that way. Show them you can do any style they ask of you, anything they need.
Do you think that was hard for some talent to be able to grasp that from
Sure.
different trainers and not be able to keep up with that pace?
I think so. But I mean, that's the basic facts. I think even today they have different trainers, different styles, just so you get a taste and just so you get a flavor. Maybe somebody may grab a simple hammer lock one way, and somebody will show you a different way to do it,
Hmm.
and that'll fit your style a lot better.
Absolutely. So what all goes into opening a developmental territory? Because you've been a part of so much.
Well, number one, you have to have a place to train,
Hmm.
and back then, developmental was a totally different system. It was under the WWE umbrella, but the owner who signed the owner of the system, like Steve Kern was the owner, Jody Hamilton was the owner. It was all their name and their liability, which was really kind of strange
Hmm.
because WWE had that umbrella, but yet they didn't want any responsibility. So you have to have a building, you have to have insurance, you have to have obviously students, but you have to have the faith and the confidence from the office, and that's what they try to look for is guys they could trust and get the guys in there to learn a good solid foundation and come out and then could build from there.
Now, when you're trying to find buildings and you're trying to assemble a staff, basically, do they all have the final WWE have the final say as to where this is going to be located? This building's okay, or was that more just like Steve found a
No,
good building, and this is the direction we're
well,
going
then John would come in and look at it and say yay or nay.
in.
So yeah, they would have the final say on that.
Did he come in during that time period? Was there different buildings, or was Dale Mabry always the one?
No, we had when we first started out was a batting cage, but we looked around, or Steve looked around, and I went with him a couple times, looked for buildings. It was hard to find a building,
Hmm.
um, but when we finally found it, it was big enough, and that's what we needed.
Do, in your opinion, do you think when they shut down Deep South that they didn't have FCW totally ready to go? Obviously, was that
Right.
just a quick? Was that odd for that kind of behavior? Odd being during your tenure in developmental prior to that.
Well, I don't know how much is out there about the Deep South closing down and all these things, but obviously they were they weren't happy with some things going on,
Hmm.
and the idea was it's a better optic and it's a better overall vibe, I think, to be sent to Tampa, Florida, rather than McDonough, Georgia.
Hmm.
I mean, sunshine, beaches, Orlando's not that far away. That's why the PC is now in Orlando because it's its destination city for a lot of people. But I think overall, uh, the idea was send them someplace where they can learn and are receptive. And I think they just figured better off Tampa than McDonough.
Be better well received by many, whether that was the athletes, the models,
Right.
the direction that they were going.
Correct. Correct.
Bef-
And it was a different, it was a wrestling rich city.
Mhm.
You had Steve Kern living there. Johnny liked to visit there, obviously. So it was convenient for those guys. Then later on, obviously they found out Orlando being so close and to finally build the PC. That was incredible.
Mhm. Before FCW, was the developmental system? Did they have the focus on different athletes and models and that kind of vision, or was it more focused when FCW was brought to life?
I think it was more focused on FCW brought to life, because before it was mainly JR in the office, looking for guys and gals that could actually work or actually had some talent. This time they were just looking for cosmetic looks and the models and this is when the pillow fights and stuff like that was happening with the Diva division.
Hmm.
So
During this time period, do you think talent was still sending their tapes and DVDs to the office, or was it everything going to FCW?
there was some coming to FCW, but I'm sure they sent some to the office too. But occasionally we would get stuff from people sending stuff to FCW.
When you were making that transition from the batting cages to Del Mabry, was it just you training, or did they start incorporating other trainers during that time period?
It was just Steve and myself training at that time. And then Norman Smiley, or I think it might have been Billy Kidman first. Billy Kidman stopped by one day and he got a gig to train. And then he recommended Norman Smiley, who I think was a godsend. Norman knows his stuff and he works great with the divas and he
Hmm.
works great with anybody. But yeah,
How was bringing Billy Kidman into that trainer role? Do you feel like that was an easy transition for him working alongside him?
yeah, I think so. I think he has a great mind for the business. I really do.
Was that something like you said he showed up? Was that his idea, or was that an idea given to him to come down and be a trainer with you
I,
guys?
I don't know. I think he just showed up one day and checking around, asking around. I think we asked him, "What are you doing now?" And he knew John, so he talked to John, and he got the gig. And then Norman got the gig, and we went from there.
Bringing Norman Smiley, and he hadn't done anything like major or public for a couple of years. but he was well received just like you or Rip would be, and he's up
Yeah.
here with you guys, and everybody loves to talk about Dr. Tom, Rip, and Norman Smiley, honestly, because they always feel like you three were the most influential and took the time to actually train them and develop them and maybe bounce ideas and toss. It wasn't just a job, basically, for you.
Right. Right. Well, that's true. I mean, you can't be. You can get a job anywhere, but to do something like that every day was just that was a bonus.
Hmm. So when did Joey Mercury come into play?
Joey came in, uh, gosh, about 2 years in, maybe. And he was just coming back from not the accident, but he was coming back from, I think, being off for a while. Anyway, he came right in. He helped a lot of people too.
Hmm. So what was it like working with these trainers, having different backgrounds, different styles? Some of these people going through previous developmental systems. What did they bring to the table?
Well, when I say they bring their passion, I don't mean that it's just a statement, but I mean that it's because they really did bring their passion.
Hmm.
And, that's what made it so great is the guys were getting better. They were getting ideas and everybody was passionate about helping them. So, I think Joey, Norman, Billy, Steve, myself, um, I think we all brought that passion to the table and we wanted everybody to learn to be their best.
Was Steve Kern hands on with training?
At times, but I mean, he was really, he was the president, so he was managing the other stuff that we didn't have to worry about, like, shows and getting ads out and making sure they're promoted and finding new places to run.
Even with Tampa having such a rich history, was it a hard sell for some places to be able to do live shows there?
I don't think it was a hard sell. I just think it was, the fact that Steve Kern had a name in Tampa and he could go in and do that. I think that's what really helped. So I don't think it was that hard to sell because Steve had a lot of connections.
Do you know that if Steve had any certain vision for how he wanted FCW to continue to grow and expand and do these live shows?
No, I think we were just trying to do the best we could with what we had around Tampa and surrounding areas. Um, but as far as trying to grow it and stuff, I mean, Steve had a great vision, and, and we were running shows, but I think they just had another vision.
Hmm.
When the regime change happened.
How is it working with Dusty Rhodes and watching these people try to, whether that was cut a promo in front of Dusty or do an idea that Dusty may have had for them to be able to bring that to life?
Well, Dream was one of a kind, and that was the coolest part of it, man, because we could sit there on TV days before anybody else would get there. We'd eat watermelon and talk about the show and laugh, and uh, it was just great watching him work and watching him create ideas for people.
Hmm.
And sometimes it just come off the top. Well, most of the time they would come off the top of his head. Because he was writing movies, man. He was making sure he produced, talent, and he did, and he was into it.
Hmm. So was he more, besides the like cutting promos and stuff, did he do more of like character development for them? Like if they were caught up on something character wise, they would go to Dream.
Sometimes, yes, yeah, definitely sit there and have a good talk with him, and he could give them a different picture altogether. And while you're just looking at the forefront, he goes even deeper into it.
Even if those people couldn't see it at the time, he's seen the long term.
Yeah, that was what was so cool being around him because he did see long term. He did have a vision or an idea.
Before they even started talking about the PC, was there ever a vision or an idea of expanding FCW bigger than what it was? Were those talks ever happening?
Well, there was a talk of putting it on TV like NXT is now.
Hmm.
That was in the very beginning. Um, we were on TV just around Florida, the sports network. What was it called?
Um,
FN, FNS or FN something.
Bright House. No, it was on Bright House.
Okay. Well, yeah, whatever it was, I mean, it was just around Florida and those surrounding things. So, I mean, we had a little notoriety and publicity, but it wasn't nationwide. So these guys didn't have to worry about flopping on nationwide TV or worldwide TV.
Hmm.
So that was the one thing I thought was great. And when they got on the roster, then all of a sudden they renewed it. But I think that was about as big as we wanted to get. Is just have the TVs in Florida, have the guys work the towns, and then get you on the main roster.
I think I missed that part of developmental. Growing up around OVW, and then I went to Tampa for a little bit and saw that system. Like went to a couple shows. I think I miss having that surprise debut or introducing a character because when it's just I don't know, it's just different because I grew up around the old way. So seeing
Yeah.
someone that's just thrown on NXT and then making their main roster debut, it's not. I don't feel like it's that exciting because we've already seen it. There's
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah, that was the idea for FCW. We didn't want to go national. We didn't want to go
Mhm.
worldwide. We wanted to have it down there so you can kind of keep them, get the TV experience,
Mhm.
and then when you have it, you go on the main roster. You're going to be still going to need polish, but at least you're going to be a fresh face. Here at NXT, man, they make their debut and it's tough.
Oh yeah, because if it doesn't work, they've got 40 other people.
Yeah, you're done.
I've just never been a fan of that. I mean, when NXT first came, it was big. It was, it was the thing. But then as it grew, it kind of took away that little element of building a character. I feel.
Yeah, it did. I feel the same way. Because once you've seen it, you've seen it.
Hmm. During all of the great things that you guys did at FCW, was there any working with any not particular talent, but your favorite part of when you were working with these talents and developing
My favorite part is watching them when the light came on, why we were doing all these drills.
them? Hmm.
Why they finally figured out. In fact, I used to have 1 hour Broadways. That was one of the things they did before they graduated, go to the main roster, or whatever it was, because we never knew when they were going to actually go to the main roster.
Hmm.
But nobody could understand why I was having them go 1 hour. And I said, you may never go an hour, and you probably won't, but you may.
Hmm.
And three people have since told me, says, yeah, they had to do the gauntlet match, go 45 minutes. And if they'd never gone that hour, they wouldn't realize what it's like to do the hour. And you learn how to breathe, you learn how to calm down, tell a story. If you think about an hour, just four 15-minute matches.
Hmm.
If you think of it like that, you just tell a story and you're going to keep going, working, working, working. I, when they finally saw what we were trying to do, that was most satisfying for me. 'Cause we weren't just doing drills just to blow you up. We're doing them so you get in condition for it, for what you may face later on.
Hmm. And I think you could probably find those who are passionate that would make it through that or do that. I mean, yeah, I mean that may be a hard sell to some of these people back then. Or we're going to go an hour, but I think that that's something they appreciate and learn that that these were the passionate people for professional wrestling.
Right,
Hmm.
right. At least they can say they did go an hour.
Well, like you said, you may never, but then you may, but then you're always prepared because
Well, I used to get in there and go an hour with them. My last, no, it wasn't the last hour I did because I think I did Rick Victor was the last one. But I had an hour match with Heath Slater where I broke my ankle 10 minutes into the match. Yeah,
but you kept
and
going.
but I kept going and I made him puke at the end of the match. That's true too. Yeah. If you ever have a chance to interview Heath Slater, ask him about that.
I most certainly will, sir.
Yeah.